everything was falling apart. The airplane was swerving on the ground and everybody was screaming, you know.
The death toll rises to 2. The Civil Aviation Authority still probing what went so wrong with a plane that was airworthy. The Finance and Public Enterprises Minister is expected to weigh in on the Eskom wage deadlock and reports of a new offer on the table this evening. This is eNews at 8. I'm Sally Burdett. Good evening. A second person has died following the Ivana plane crash in Pretoria yesterday. The man died in hospital this morning. It's believed he was in the factory when the plane hit. The other fatality was on board the aircraft. The Civil Aviation Authority has confirmed the aeroplane did have an airworthiness certificate. The cause of the crash has not been established, but smoke was seen coming from one engine shortly after takeoff. Our reporter Zikhona Chona spoke to an eyewitness to yesterday's tragic events.
I saw it coming from this side, turning slowly, but it was very low, you see. And then when it was turning slowly, it had to hit that building, it's a dairy farm. And then when it hit that building, it broke into fire, you know. And then everything was falling apart. When everything was falling apart, the airplane was swerving on the ground and everybody was screaming, you know. They had to come out in different sides because the windows, they were open. So they'd come out, some they will come out from that side and come out from that side.
Typhus Runganga was going about his daily business until the unimaginable happened. He took these videos, still shaken by what he saw. He says he watched helplessly as the aircraft caught fire and crashed into a building. Runganga says the screams of a woman stuck in the plane still echo in his head. The Civil Aviation Authority says the investigation into the cause of the accident has not been concluded.
We have received the information with the maintenance organization responsible for the maintenance of this aircraft that they took off from Johannesburg to go and perform pressurization check in the area of Johannesburg.
Survivors say they believe the crash was as a result of an engine failure. Zikhona Chona, Pretoria.
To Eskom wage talks, it's believed there's a new offer on the table, but no word yet on whether it will break the deadlock. The National Union of Mine Workers, NUMSA and Solidarity are now asking to meet with the Ministers of Public Enterprises and Finance, as well as the Eskom board. Sindela Masikane reports.
eNews understands that the cash-strapped utility has now put on the table 7.5% as a wage increase for this year, 6.5% for the second year, and 6.25% for the third year. It's also understood that Eskom is offering 141 Rand as a housing allowance and bonuses based on its financial statements. Unions have now demanded a meeting with Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan and Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene.
With the percentage, we are not negotiations with housing allowance. We're demanding a bond.
I think to negotiate through the media is not necessarily helping us, especially in the light of the fact that we want to meet with the board, we meet with the minister. We've got our own views about what is on the table. If Eskom decide to leak it, they will do it.
The power utility remains optimistic a deal will be reached.
Yesterday was a marathon meeting that we had, but we are gravitating closer to each other actually. But I can safely say that Eskom has upped its offer slightly, and I can also safely say that the unions were also willing to adjust their position downwards.
The threat of load shedding still hangs over the heads of consumers until a settlement is reached. It's now up to Minister Gordhan and Minister Nene to resolve the wage dispute or risk workers going on strike. Slinda Lomasigan, Johannesburg.
We apologise for the slight sound and vision fallouts during the playing of that item. Now, as Cape Town looks forward to easing its water restrictions, another metropole is dealing with tougher limits. The Nelson Mandela Bay municipality has implemented new restrictions as the combined level of its dams has now fallen below 20%. Sandy McCowan reports.
Residents are being warned to drastically reduce their water consumption as storage dam levels reach an all-time low of 19%. And with no significant rainfall forecast, The Department of Water and Sanitation has ordered to reduce its usage to 220 megalitres a day.
Restrictive household consumption is now being reduced to 15 kilolitres per metered connection. So that means per metered connection. There's no differentiation whether there's one person or 10 people staying on that property. If you use above 15 kilolitres, there's going to be a punitive charge, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. No use of municipal water supply allowed to water gardens, wash cars, hose down walls, paving, top up pools, fountains, ponds. No approval of new swimming pools to be built. Car washes will be closed if they have not achieved the requirement to recycle 60% of their water. No municipal showers will be operating anymore.
Some water-dependent businesses like Sherwood Garden Centre have come up with innovative ideas to keep from closing their doors, like solely using borehole water.
We are finding a huge demand for the water succulent plants, and so there's a big increase in demand for that, which we're selling, so obviously getting more in. And also the indigenous plants, which also a lot of them are fairly water-wise.
The municipality warns residents if the dam levels fall to 15%, all residents will be restricted to 40 litres per person per day. Sandy McCowan, Port Elizabeth.
Staying in that city, but moving to the rocky relations in the coalition governing Nelson Mandela Bay. Today, UDM leader Bantu Holomisa boycotted a media briefing organised by the coalition leaders. Now, that's the Democratic Alliance. Not a good sign. Ironically, the briefing was to provide updates on the state of the coalitions governing 3 metros and the budgets that have been passed. Samkele Maseko has a story.
UDM leader Bantu Holomisa seems to be preparing to serve divorce papers to the DA-led Nelson Mandela Bay coalition government. Holomisa says UDM councillor and former deputy mayor Mongameli Bobane is owed an apology by the DA. Mayor Ethel Trollip last year accused Bobane of corruption. Holomisa says Bobane has been cleared of any wrongdoing and he won't sit alongside the DA until its leaders apologize.
We did agree that an inquiry be done. It was conducted. They even appointed PwC to do an investigation. That investigation, as everybody knows, found nothing on Bobane. All I said to him then, we will only come to sit in a meeting of coalition with you when you have apologized.
Maimane was not clear on the state of the DA-led coalition in Nelson Mandela Bay, but says he's communicated with Holomisa about Bobane.
As far as the general is concerned, we are not in any, the UDM have not pulled out of the coalition. We're working well together in Joburg, we're working together in Tshwane, and I think as far as scheduling and Nelson Mandela Bay, it's no secret. Councillor Bobane votes with the ANC.
Some of the Metro's smaller coalition partners say working together hasn't been easy. Citing this press briefing was one example. They say they were merely informed it would take place without being able to offer much input. Samkele Maseko, Johannesburg.
The shocking state of some of the minibus taxis on Johannesburg roads was brought to light today. Joburg Metro Police Department impounded over 35 vehicles on the city's Jan Smuts Avenue this morning. Now, so far this year, over 500 taxis have been impounded in the city. Kaelihle Kumalo reports.
This is just one of the minibus taxis impounded by the Johannesburg Metro Police in an early morning blitz. This taxi was on the verge of falling apart with a newspaper clipping pasted up instead of a valid license disc.
We can't allow vehicles like this on the road to ferry passengers on a daily basis. People's lives are at risk.
The JMPD has also been at pains to make it clear that Operation Boyamteto is not targeting taxi operators. Instead, it's aimed at curbing road fatalities.
The reason for this Operation Boyamteto is the safety of the community and the safety of commuters.
The taxi industry is crucial to the country's economy as it ferries over 1.2 million commuters a day countrywide.
some of the taxis are not in a good condition. Some of the taxis, but many of them they're on good condition. That's why I say, remember to what we're saying to you gentlemen. Say, we are waiting for the people, GMPD, to talk and discuss about these things.
These are some of the vehicles that have been impounded by the JMPD. Some taxi operators say it's been such a huge financial loss from their side, but authorities say it's all about making sure that the country's laws are strictly adhered to. Kailihle Kumalo, Johannesburg.
Still ahead on eNews, the cave in Thailand, where 12 boys and their coach were miraculously rescued, is set to become a tourist destination and living museum. Let's focus now on the National Prosecuting Authority, and it seems the next move may be President Cyril Ramaphosa's. Yesterday, the Appeals Court ruled Deputy National Director of Public Prosecutions, Nomgcobo Jiba, was free to return to her job. Some analysts say Ramaphosa needs to take a firm hold on the Prosecuting Authority if he wants public confidence returned to the courts, especially with several high-profile criminal cases on the horizon. Lester Kivet takes a look.
After the Supreme Court of Appeal overturned a previous High Court ruling, essentially barring Nomgcobo Jiba and Lawrence Mkhwebe from practicing as advocates, President Cyril Ramaphosa now has a headache. What to do with the senior National Prosecuting Authority officials who are free to return to their jobs, especially since they are seen as being close to former President Jacob Zuma, who is currently facing prosecution. One constitutional law expert says while the appeal court says Jiba and Mkhwebe are okay to practice as advocates, there's still a cloud over their roles at the NPA.
The judgment yesterday, while saying that they remain fit to be members of the bar, I think does not deal with the problem as a whole, because there are still the outstanding issues of the reinstatement of perjury charges against Ms. Jiba relating to the Boyson matter, which was suspended pending the outcome of this case in the SCA, as well as a court judgment saying that the President should institute an inquiry into the fitness of Jiba and Mkhwebe to hold office.
Naidu says the NPA has a crisis of confidence with several high-profile corruption cases on the roll. Lester Kivet, Cape Town.
Barclays Africa Group has been officially renamed. It started trading as Absa Group Limited today. Now, although the new logo and its colour scheme were leaked last week, there's still been a lot of excitement around the unveiling today. They're even changing the voice that answers those who phone into its call centre. Now, the group says the name change marks the end of a century of Barclays on the continent. Absa will no longer just be a South African brand. The bank will have presence in 12 African countries and plans to open international offices in the UK and the US. Now, 2 years ago, Barclays International announced that it would be selling its stake in Barclays Africa to focus more on the United States and Britain. The cave where a team of young soccer players was rescued from in Thailand is set to become a living museum. Thai officials say the fate of the boys and the multinational rescue has put the cave firmly on the map. Plans are in place to develop it into a tourist destination. Now, the full name of the cave means Cave of the Reclining Lady. Legend has it a beautiful princess ran away to the cave with her commoner lover. Her father sent soldiers to kill the lover, prompting the princess to commit suicide. And the legend goes, surrounding mountains took on the shape of her body. Now, an official from the Department of National Parks in Thailand says the cave will be closed from Thursday. Villagers say it's known to be prone to flooding, and many have urged authorities to post clearer warnings. The Prime Minister says extra precautions will be implemented both inside and outside the cave to safeguard future tourists. Let's recap your top stories now.
The aeroplane was swerving on the ground and everybody was screaming, you know.
The death toll rises to 2. The Civil Aviation Authority still probing what went so wrong with a plane that was airworthy. The Finance and Public Enterprises Minister is expected to weigh in on the Eskom wage deadlock and reports of a new offer on the table this evening. After the break, we've got all your weather details, and then a Hollywood studio proposes a skyway that will travel all the way up to the Hollywood sign.
Good evening, everyone. It was a partly cloudy and mild day across much of South Africa's interior, but as we take a look out into the Atlantic Ocean, we see a bright band of cloud approaching, and that is a cold front which will be making landfall along the western coastline during the early morning hours of Thursday, bringing the end to the current dry spell in the Western Cape. Cold and wet weather will spread inland as the front moves through, as well as up the western and south coasts of the country, and by evening there could be snowfalls on the mountain tops of the Western Cape. The city forecast shows that it will be mostly dry over the Northern Cape, along with very windy weather over this province, and by evening there could be light rain for both Springbok and Sutherland. The wet weather starts up before sunrise for Cape Town, spreading towards the Cape Winelands, as well as over much of the rest of the province by late afternoon. In the Eastern Cape, ahead of the cold front, there'll be berg winds along the coastline once again, 29 degrees as a maximum temperature all across the Wild Coast. And for KwaZulu-Natal, it's going to be a sunny Thursday, and along with that, temperatures will once again climb into the mid-20s. Staying in the high teens in the afternoon for much of the Mpumalanga Highveld, where it will be a partly cloudy day, and there will also be some cloud cover in Limpopo, but temperatures in this province have normalised over the last few days. It's also going to be a mild day in the northwest, 21 as a maximum for Mahikeng, and overnight temperatures managed to stay above freezing for the meantime. Not too bad in the Free State as well. Partly cloudy for Bloemfontein. You start off at 5 degrees and climb to a high of 20. And finally, for Gauteng, mostly sunny skies, but there will be some cloud once again over the province, and a 20-degree maximum temperature is expected for Johannesburg as well as Vereeniging. Heading into Friday, the cold front moves a little bit further inland. Showers and thunderstorms extend from the Northern Cape into the Eastern Cape later on, but for the meantime, KZN stays dry, but that does change on Saturday. Cooler and wet weather in that province, and there could be a few thunder showers onto the Highveld.
And finally, the famous Hollywood sign could soon be a little easier to reach. That's if a proposal for a mile-long aerial tramway up the mountain gets the nod. Warner Brothers has announced details of a plan to build a tramway from its Burbank film lot up the sides of Mount Lee to the sign. Now, the studio will pay for the design, construction, operation and maintenance of the proposed Hollywood Skyway. The 13.4-metre-high white Hollywood sign, installed in 1923, is a designated historical monument. Now, at the moment, the only way to get close to the sign is a rugged, tough hike from nearby Griffith Park. Let's recap your top stories. The death toll rises to 2. The Civil Aviation Authority still probing what went so wrong with a plane that was airworthy. And that's your news. Take care. Good night.